Historic Snapshots. An Inspirational Landscape. In the summer of 1861, Carleton Watkins, one of the most renowned photographers of his era, traveled to Yosemite Valley in California in the USA. He photographed the area's breathtaking natural landscapes and distinctive geography. People all over the country were astonished by his photos, which motivated others to visit the area. Watkins' photos also brought about something much more significant. In 1864, California Senator John Conness, who possessed a set of Watkins' photo prints, drafted the Yosemite Grant Bill. The bill proposed something totally new in history, setting aside a large part of Yosemite Valley for public use. That same year, the bill was signed by President Abraham Lincoln. The Yosemite Grant Bill was based on the idea that wilderness should be preserved for future generations. This differed from the attitude that Americans had previously shown towards nature. Until the mid-1850s, pioneers and settlers of America had been clearing forests along the East Coast for over a century. This was based on the belief that humans had the right to exploit the country's wilderness. It was clear that securing the land for preservation would not be good for economic growth. In this situation, Watkins' photos brought about changes in public opinion. The bill had support from the government, businesses, and naturalists. It became an important first step toward establishing Yellowstone as the first national park in America in 1872. It was followed by Yosemite, General Grant, and Sequoia, which each became national parks as well. Without Watkins' photos, the lawmakers might not have been inspired to conserve these areas and protect the natural beauty of the country. A Portrait of a Great Leader. Margaret Burke White was working for Life magazine in 1946 when she was given a rare opportunity to photograph Mahatma Gandhi. He was the leader of India at a time when it was struggling to achieve independence from Britain. She met him at his home in India, where the photo shoot turned out to be a much stiffer challenge than she had expected. Things were difficult from the beginning. First, Gandhi's secretaries told Burke White that she could not photograph Gandhi in front of his spinning wheel until she learned how to use it herself. The spinning wheel was a symbol of India's independence from Britain's textile industry, and it symbolized the goal of people making their own clothing. Next, she was told not to speak to Gandhi because it was his day of silence. Plus, she could only use 3 flashbulbs during the whole shoot because Gandhi was not fond of bright lights. Burke White successfully spun thread and agreed to the other requests. But then she had problems with her camera equipment due to India's humid weather. Finally, she was ready to shoot. To her disappointment, however, her first 2 shots did not turn out well. On the first try, the flashbulb broke, and on the second, she made a mistake with her camera. Luckily, her third and final shot was successful. The image of a thin, frail man sitting on the floor by his spinning wheel became a historic portrait of the great leader. It was also one of the last portraits of Gandhi, as he was killed less than 2 years after the photo was taken. A reminder of a different time. On September 4, 1957, photojournalist Will Counts photographed a young black woman named Elizabeth Eckford as she walked to Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, USA. The 15-year-old Eckford had just been turned away by Arkansas National Guardsmen after she attempted to enroll at the all-white high school. In 1954, the court had declared it was unfair to create separate schools on the basis of race. Despite the court's judgment, several states in the South, including Arkansas, refused to desegregate. The photo also depicts a young white woman, Hazel Bryan Masery, angrily yelling at Eckford as she made her way through the hostile crowd. On October 25, 1997, the two women joined together to speak about peace in honor of the 40th anniversary of the school desegregation effort. It was Counts that arranged for the two women to reunite. On that day, Counts photographed them once again in front of Little Rock Central High School, but this time they were smiling at each other, standing side by side. Although this was the first time the two women had met face to face, it was not the first time they had spoken. Maisry had called Eckford on the phone years earlier and apologized for what she had done 40 years prior. Without these two photos, we might not have had such a clear example of changing racial attitudes toward African Americans in the USA. The photos show us that the world may not be perfect, but society is headed in the right direction thanks to the power of courage, equality, and forgiveness.